All right, welcome back once again. And today we have with us the very well known, the man who's always smiling, Marty Sires. How are you doing?
That makes me smile. So,
You're always, man. I like was just thinking about this the other day and I said, you're everybody's top fan.
yeah.
That
Well,
I
thank
mean,
you.
that's kind of how I feel because like when I'm racing on track and I'm coming around after the end of the race, and you're just, I mean, like all the corner workers clap and do that, which is great and appreciated, and we wave back. But like, I know it's you by what you do. You're pointing and just thumbs up and big
Oh
smile
yeah.
and like, yeah, and like same thing whenever Chris is out there or whatever. It's just you always you got the biggest smile on your face and like everybody's always looking forward to see you in the paddock and yeah, it's just you're like Mr. Good Time.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I enjoy being around motorcyclists, and as the years go on, if I can help in a corner or coach or go out and ride myself, it's just good to be out there, and it's also good from being on the other side of it, where you guys are now, to know that the people in the corners are cheering for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
So
sure. And I mean, it's awesome to talk to you because you dabbled a little bit of everything in the sport, and you've been around a long time with it, and you know so many people and so many like influential people. You have great stories, and so saying that, let's start off by asking you, how did you get into riding motorcycles to begin with?
Well, my dad started riding motorcycles like in 1938, and from my youngest years, I can remember my dad coming home on some kind of motorcycle, and he would sit me on the tank when I was a little kid, and I would hold on to the handlebars, and we would ride through the neighborhood. And then as I got older, my dad was a big fan of flat track, and I would sit on the back of his bikes. And I can remember being so small, we would ride to Columbus for the charity newsies, and I live up around the Akron area, and I would just be staring at the back of his back because I was such a small person, but I enjoyed being around the bikes. Um, and then when we were kids, we lived in the city, and so we really didn't have any place to ride, but we always had mini bikes. And I can remember the first one I can remember that Dad bought for us was like an old chopper that had a Briggs and Stratton 5 horse on it that you start with the pull tab, and we ride around in the parking lot. And then we got the first Honda Mini Trail, which is a smaller version of the Monkey now, where you could fold the handlebars down.
Yep.
And he would put that in the trunk of the car like a big early 70s Dodge Polaris, and take us to a place down by these railroad tracks in the Akron area. And we would, there were trails through there, and we'd ride as little kids. And I bought, well, then after that went on, when I was in high school, my dad always had Harleys, and he would take vacations with some of my siblings because we couldn't afford to go on vacations together. So when he would take my other siblings on vacation, I would disconnect the speedometer cable on the front of his Harleys, and I rode it to high school.
Oh,
And I
jeez.
kind of grew up in the hood, man. And I rolled up, in the hood on some of my dad's Harleys back in the day. And I think I bought my first street bike in '83. And I was in college at Ohio State, and we went down to party at OU. And we were coming back up through Lancaster, and they had asked Suzuki Kawasaki dealership, and we stopped and went in there, and there was an '83 GPZ 550, which I think was the first sport bike that had a monoshock on it, and had a little dime-sized dent in the tank. And so they said, we'll sell it for this, and I put a deposit on it, and I went back to Columbus and got my credit union shit together. And I couldn't get anybody to take me back down to Lancaster to get my motorcycle, so I hitchhiked down there.
Oh, jeez.
I thumbed from Ohio State down to Lancaster to pick up the bike. And I was so excited, I turned the other way and went back down to OU and rode all through uh, the forest down there, you know,
Yeah.
and hit all the twisties. But that was my first motorcycle. And then shortly after that, when I started doing some research on that GPZ 550, at the time that was the endurance bike of choice, and I didn't know anything about road racing, so I started to get into it as far as learning about it at that time, but I didn't start racing quite at that time. So
Yeah. So I assume, like many of the others that I've already talked to, being your age and stuff, that like back then, track days happened, but they weren't like a thing like they are now. It's more like if you raced, you did the track day. It was more of like to get your license or learn or whatever it may be.
yeah, well, I started at Nelson, and I moved back from Columbus to the Akron area, and I'm a retired teacher, which most of you guys know.
What
And
what uh what did you teach?
I started out with a biology degree, and I was a basketball coach, and I played basketball, and I was a track coach also. And as the years went on, I started at Norton High School, and I went to the city of Akron after that. But I had the opportunity to go to Hudson, which is a pretty affluent community in the Akron area,
Oh yeah.
and so I went back and got certified in elementary phys ed after that, and I taught fourth and fifth grade phys ed for 25 years,
Oh, nice.
which terrified me because I'd worked with high school kids my whole life, and when they wanted me to take an elementary job, I freaked out about it kind of because I can see your license plate in the back there, 0 kids,
Yeah.
and I never had any kids of my own either, but I love kids, and so I I was terrified, but it was one of the best things that ever happened to me to do that.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was my career. But in the summertime, I would always work and do odd jobs, and a lot of it I sold motorcycles before, in the summertime for State Eight, and buddy of mine ran a dealership in the Cleveland area. I sold bikes for him just to be around motorcycles. It's always come back to motorcycling, man. I've met some of my best friends through motorcycling, including my doctor.
Really?
Yeah, my doctor and I had an endurance racing team with Sam Wang. Well, it was the end of Moto Series, and then with Sam, we were the doc and the jock,
Oh, that's hilarious.
and yeah, that was the name of our team, and so we had an endurance racing team. Dr. Sean and I, and he's actually the doctor for many people in our area that are motorcyclists.
So, you we'll call it track days, but how did you get into riding the track then?
Well, I had the GPZ 550, and after that, I bought a Honda Nighthawk S, which was a really good bike. And then the Suzuki came out with the first GSXR, and I saw it in the magazine, and I loved it. And I bought an '86 GSXR 1100. And I'm like, yeah, this is the biggest, baddest bike that I can imagine. So Bob Stanley at the time, who was the founder of the original Fast Tracks, was coaching with a group out of Nelson called Track Sport. And Arlen Crump was he owned that track organization. I forget the guy that was with him, but it was the Wild West, man. It was crazy. You would show up and they would go over like what the flags meant, and no coaching. You had to find someone in the pits, and they would turn you loose on the track. And we changed. It was track sport. We changed it to crash sport because it was carnage by the second session in that thing. So it was pretty crazy, man. And I can remember when I was first learning, I went out on my GSXR 1100, and I thought that I was faster than any man alive. And I'm going through the carousel on this thing, and I glanced over, and this guy on a BMW bagger with chaps on and jeans, and he had the biker wallet with the chain flapping on his pants. Man, came flying around the outside of me, and I'm thinking, holy shit, this is terrible, that was very humbling. And by the middle of the season, that guy was a rolling chicane. But I've never forgotten that with my coaching. And for those of us that have a lot of experience riding motorcycles, it's when I coach, I never forget what it's like to be that guy that was going through the carousel and have that dude fly around you on a BMW, because that essentially is all of our students, when they're out there for the first time.
Yeah, I have a similar experience, kind of. When I was I can't remember if it was the first or second time I did a track day. It was at Putnam Park, and I can't remember who the org was now at the time. I'm thinking it was Nesba, maybe. But I was out in novice, and the coach that I had was on like a 99 SV650, the most ragged out thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, there wasn't, several colors. It was just like whatever he had laying around, put on it. It was a naked one too. Like, he didn't have front fairing on it, so it was like gas tank and tail, different colors, whatever. And the dude had to weigh, I don't know, 260. I mean, he was a big boy. And we're going through a corner, and I remember, like, I'm hustling, just trying my best to keep up. And mid-corner, he turns around and looks at me and, taps his tail, and I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like,
right.
Really? Like, I'm focusing all my energy to try to just keep up with you. And this dude just casually turned around, tapping his tail. Hey, come on. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's humbling, But, yeah, I do the same thing. That's always – that instance is always in the back of my head whenever, I'm dealing with other people, like, novices and stuff. I'm like, yep, been there. And I've told that story on how many times to
and over the years, how many times have you heard, man, I was getting my line down and I'm flying through this turn, and you've got one arm on the tank and you're looking back at me while I'm doing my fastest through there.
Yeah, and you never forget you were there. And like, I love to tell those stories like that to our novice group and stuff, because I'm like, hey, there's no shame in that. We've all been there. We started just like that. And, you'll eventually get to where we are, if you keep at it. Right. But, like, that's how it starts. It's how it is,
Yeah.
So from there, then what? Where'd you go from there? Did you, you were doing, so they were just track days, or were you getting your race license at that time? Is that why you were there?
No, that was just track days. And then I went during that time when I had that 1100, and mind you, everyone that I knew that was racing at the time, because I was around the track a lot more than I was on the street, and I was kind of leaning in the direction that I wanted to go racing, because on the street I was doing wheelies and riding crazy, and all of the guys that seemed like they had sense to me were racing, because they said, hey man, it's not the fall that kills you, it's the parked car or the fire hydrant.
Yep.
Or the guardrail. And so I'm like, yeah, I might do this, but my 1100 wasn't the bike to do that on. So I ended up buying a 1990 GSXR 750, and I prepped it, and that year I remember when I had my bike prepped, Suzuki gave a free track day, and at the time I had no idea, but Wes Cooley was our instructor, who is one of the old school legends of racing, and he's since passed. But his co-instructor was Keith Perry. That's still Sean Dillon Kelly's mechanic with M4 Suzuki.
Oh wow!
And he was a young man, and we took that at Grattan, and I remember Wes Cooley saying, I don't remember much about that school, because as I was it was so overwhelming to go in, and I was going to start racing, and I'm taking a race school at Grattan, there are all these race bikes flying around on the track, and I haven't been out there with a plate on my bike yet. I had a yellow plate, and I'm shitting myself, man. And Wes Cooley goes, I can give you guys the first bit of information I want to give you before we talk anything track. He said, before you go to the track, and as soon as you come home, the most important thing you can do is wash your bike. And I'm like, I wasn't expecting that. He said, that's when you find things that are wrong with your motorcycle.
That makes a
Because
lot of
you
sense.
touch
Yeah.
you touch everything on the bike. That's when you find things that are loose, and that's when you see them. And that's always stuck with me. And when it made a lot of sense years after that down the road, when I was racing AMA Pro. I can remember on my SV 650 at Daytona, pushing my own bike into tech, and in front of me was Miguel Duhamel and 7 mechanics, and they rolled his bike up on the stand and checked it out, and I pushed mine up myself on the stand, and my number the first year was 122, but I had the little the little thing coming off the number 1. There's a name for it, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And the guy came over in tech. They didn't even look at my bike. He took a razor blade and cut that thing off of there and said, the only number 1 that can be like that is the number 1 plate holder. He goes, you're on TV at 2:00, be on the grid on time.
Huh.
And like I would spend so much time in Wira, and that's just the difference. But to be a stickler about bike prep, it takes so much off of your mind when you're on the track racing, because and you've probably done it yourself. You're going down the back straightaway, and you're in the lead of a race, and you've done a lot of that in where you just get out there and you hit your own brake markers and you're cutting your hot laps. The stuff that starts popping into your head was, man, I just replaced this fork oil. Did I tighten those lower triple clamp bolts down? And stuff like that starts coming into your head when you're out there on the track. And to know that you actually touched every part of the bike before you go out is valuable. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm very bad at that. I usually leave my bike in my camper when I get home. But, like, man, I do at the track, like, every Friday, whenever I get to the track, I usually like go over it and, lube the chain and do all that stuff and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've had like all bikes vibrate, and you'll have stuff come out, and like, yeah, I'm a big proponent of Loctite now, because like you put that on there, it sucks to get it off, but she ain't going nowhere. So
yeah, well, especially the twins.
Yeah.
We talked off camera a little bit about an incident that I had, and that was my Wira experience. It was pretty short lived. I started racing with Wira, and when I was recovering from my accident, I'd always wanted a Honda Hawk, and it was a 650 twin that had a single sided swing arm.
Beautiful bike.
It was a pretty badass bike in the day, and so I put that back together and got off of that 750, and I haven't had a track bike that was an inline 4 since. I became a big proponent of twins.
I'm the same
for
way.
Me,
yep.
They're a lot easier to ride because you don't shift them as much, because you have the torque, and if you get into a turn and you blow a shift or something like that, you still can get on the gas earlier, and it has enough torque to keep it rolling.
I think they have more character too. Like the last inline I owned was like, it had to be 10, 12 years. I had like an R6. It was not even the cool version. It's what turned into the S model or whatever. But once I got on like either a V twin or a parallel twin or V4, like that was it, right, man. Like they just have so much more character, and the sound is beautiful.
Yeah, and I won my share of races on those, and I was listening to Malachar, his interview with you, where he said that he hated sprint racing. I loved it, and it was the different thing. an endurance race to me, when I ran endurance, after the first 4 or 5 laps, it was like an open practice for 3 hours.
Yeah, I agree.
But a sprint race, it's important to get a good start and get
Yeah.
around the guys that are going to hold you up, because if the guys that you're running with get away from you, then it's over.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's well,
And
I've been telling Chris Johnson and like Chris Bogert and stuff. Like this is, a revelation I've had in the last couple of years of like you got to go 110% lap one, or you spend the other 7 laps just trying to make up places and try to get to the front. But if you
yeah,
get within that top 3 to begin with, then you're good. The last race I did, I made all my passes but one in the first lap, and then second lap I made the pass to first, and it made a huge difference. Just like being aggressive right out of the gate was
yeah,
it just changed the way I raced. It's
yeah,
huge, but it's a mindset thing. It's like you have to really, really, really commit and like just go, yep, that's what I'm going to do. And like kind of when I was telling those guys when we went out for practice before the races, I went out in practice and did my like first lap in practice hard as I could go, because that
yeah.
set the pace for the rest of the day for me.
Yeah, and if you think about the little things too, like at Nelson especially, the start is important because you get held up in turn one. But what I've found over the years is you're starting from halfway down the straightaway already from a standing start,
Don't need to break.
and normally you're coming out of turn 13 in second gear,
Right.
going 60. And so you have the whole straightaway, but people start lining up and looking at the back of each other's heads, and that happens wherever you go.
Yep.
And so you have to understand that in practice, you were going much faster than that through turn one. So you have to figure out ways to get around people where you have traction and do it safely.
Yep.
But that's racecraft anyway. We're talking about school stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, you had did you get like a club racing license first, and how did you get into running AMA?
Yeah, I got a club racing license with Wera, and I went through 2 weekends with my orange shirt on and got that done. And I ran in that 750 class, and I had a stock bike, so I could run in A super stock. My class at that time was B super stock and B super bike, and then I would run the up classes too. And I got smashed in all of them because I was a novice. And then I ended up getting a white plate with Wera, and I got hurt doing that, and I went over and I started to run with Arma, and Arma is it used to be very competitive. It was a vintage series, but it used to be the old BOT3, which was Battle of the Twins 3, Battle of the Twins 2, and then they had what Sound of Thunder.
Yep.
And in Arma back in the day, I mean, you can see the art of the motorcycle back there behind me. What that is, that's the Britain that's up there on the wall.
Yep.
And I was at Mid Ohio in Arma, and that thing came flying around the outside of me, and there were 11 of them made, I think, in the world. And Eric Wood was on that, and Arma, you get to see some cool things, and it was safe racing for me. And then I thought, I'd give it a go when AMA had the Pro Thunder class, and I switched over when the SV 650 came out. My Honda Hawk was obsolete at that time, so I got an SV 650, a 98, and I rode everything east of Blackhawk with AMA, which is now Moto America, and I could do pretty decent on that bike. I had a 1mm overbore in it, and I would do decent on the technical tracks. At Mid Ohio, which you're familiar with, I wish that going under the bridge that track would have turned right at that point, because I could have finished up a lot better. Because in the turns, you're going good, but horsepower, like at Daytona, I got crushed, and Road America in places. But I just enjoyed it. And most riders in Moto America are like jockeys. They're small guys, and like you would be considered a monster in like a pro motorcycle rider. Well, you saw PJ Jacobson when he came out last year, and
Yeah.
some of those people. And I'm a big guy, and I just love it. So I would just go do it. I knew I didn't have a chance, but it was fun, and it was challenging for me to go out and just I was always a fan as well as a rider, and I still am. I'm a big fan of motorcycling, and I'm a big fan of like you and Chris and guys that are doing it now, and experiencing what I got to experience years ago. So
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, doing what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, I'm way late in the game. I wish I would have been. It was more of something that came in my upbringing where I grew up. There, I mean, motorcycles weren't a thing. I mean, dirt bikes and stuff like that. Yeah, but like
yeah,
road racing, like I didn't know anybody that did it. And yeah, I mean, I got into it way late in life and whatever. And yeah, to be really any good at it, you have to start extremely young to
yeah,
because get all those fears out when you don't have a fear of crashing. You don't have to pay for a house or food or whatever. No responsibilities. But
right.
so how long did you run in AMA, and then from that point? I mean, obviously you've been coaching with Fast Tracks. You did with Lean as well, right?
I didn't do so much with lean. I did with Moto Series,
Okay, Moto Series. What
and
anything before that too, or was it Moto Series your start of coaching?
no, the original Fast Tracks. I was one of the off the ground members
Okay.
of Fast Tracks, and Eric Betcher came about midway through the original Fast Track. So he and I think, are the two from the original group. And when Bob Stanley passed away, who was the founder of the Fast Tracks at Nelson, his wife Carol and son Todd kept it going as Fast Tracks, and then they sold it to Todd Karam, who I think ran it as Fast Tracks for a while, and I worked with him and with Moto Series, and then I kind of stepped away from it. Over the years, it's so expensive to go racing, man, and
Yep, a tad bit.
that seems to be one of the reoccurring things that I've watched in these series that you're doing with the coaches, that it's expensive, and so I can't tell you how many times that I've sold all my bikes and trailers and everything else that goes along with racing, and then it just gets in your blood, and it comes back, and somebody says, "Hey," and tying that in with what you just asked me, my last year racing in the AMA Pro Series was in 2000, and I stepped away from it for a while, and I still street rode, and I went to the races and things, but I wasn't participating. But behind the scenes, I still had many friends that were still racing at all levels. And then my doc, who I talked to you about, Sean Wilson, called, and he goes, "Hey man, what do you think about endurance racing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, talk to me." And he goes, "I'll buy a bike and you prep it, and we'll go and race with Moto Series Endurance and with Lean Endurance." And so I did that until 2009ish, and after that, I think I rode in the race for relief when Hurricane Katrina hit and wiped out New Orleans. Some of my racing buddies from the Pittsburgh area, who were big WERA guys, they chased the Suzuki Cup money and Yamaha money at the time, like Quentin. Quentin used to do that too.
Yep.
And we ended up raising a whole bunch of money for Hurricane Katrina, and that was an endurance thing we did at Pitt. And Michael Jordan matched the money that all of us raised. And I think Dr. Sean and I, between the two of us, raised 26,000.
Wow.
And it was just from putting it out there and people being generous and pitching in, But that was a fun thing. So that wasn't a real race, but we went out there and turned a bunch of laps for charity.
That's
But
awesome.
but that was the last time that I raced. But I on and off have done track days, and I had my Aprilia Tuono, and I lived in Texas for a while, so I had an opportunity to ride COTA and some of the West Coast tracks. And I'd like to, why I can still do this, because Malakar's about a half a year older than I am. So we're the old grizzled veterans out there. But as long as I can still do it, I'd like to go out and I've got some bucket list tracks that I would like to ride.
Yeah,
So
if I can still get around a track at your age, and then I'll be really really happy. You seem in
yeah,
pretty good shape and get around the track pretty good, so that's my goal.
yeah, I don't want to fall. I know where the edge is, and I'm not going to go near it. And we all or we know what this sport's all about, and it's usually someone else making a mistake that you can't avoid that causes the problem. So Mike hits it on the head at the riders meeting by telling people, you ride at your own ability, because it's not only your safety, it's everybody around you.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
yeah, I can't remember the last time I fell down on my own. You know, and it's important when you crash too to know why.
Yeah,
Because the ones that you don't know what happened are hard to fix.
yeah, they are for sure.
Yes.
So yeah, you coached with Fast Tracks originally, and then the Moto Series, and then into what we have now at Fast Tracks.
Yeah, and I pitched in over the years too. I've helped Arma over the years with their program, and this last year I actually ran their riders school at Nelson
Oh,
for
nice.
them, and provided control riders. I'll keep you in mind for that next year,
Okay.
and to come up and kind of get a foot in the door with Arma. They're a good organization. I've coached with N2. I heard Mike mention Monty Lutz when he owned Sport Bike Track Time,
Hmm.
and I'd forgotten all about that. But I used to go and help him at Mid Ohio, and so over the years I've helped quite a few organizations as a part time coach.
So how did you
And
get into coaching to begin with? Like, somebody approach you, or what was the scenario there?
well, most people in the motorcycling community know that I have a teaching background,
Okay.
and so uh, my experience with motorcycling and the people that have known me over the years know that I can articulate what little bit I know about motorcycles to someone, and be able to reach them, because people learn differently. There are hands-on people that you can sit down and hand them a pamphlet or show them a video, and they don't get it. But if you put them behind you and they follow you for 2 or 3 laps, you get out of the way and they get it like that. But not everyone learns that way. So that's kind of how I got into it, just being around it, and making it known that I was willing to pitch in and help wherever I could, because it's all about keeping the sport going.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more rewarding. You've been around it long enough now to see someone go out there and actually get it. Like nail a turn for the first time, and they're all pumped up. And it's things that we forget about as coaches and riders, that is the most enjoyable part of coaching, is to have someone else actually to get it, and know how it feels in a baseball game, or like a football game or whatever. You can hit the ball 1,000 times, but when you swing the bat, excuse me, and you hit the ball and it feels like you didn't even hit it, and it just goes, man. That's the same seat of the pants feeling when you get a turn right in motorcycling, and you hit your brake marker, you hit the apex, you accelerate out, and you're on the gas, and your ass just tells your brain, man, that's the way that's supposed to be. And
Yeah.
that's a good feeling.
I never forget it, because that is one of the highlights anytime I'm doing coaching, especially like in novice and stuff, or intermediate. Advanced, those guys are, for the most part, I mean, unless somebody coming up from intermediate to advanced, we still work with those guys, but I would say 80% of those guys, they got it down, they're doing their own thing. But working with somebody like a novice, and they've been a novice for a while, and they're struggling with a certain corner or whatever it is, and we work on it all day, and we get through the classroom stuff, the lead follow things, and we get into that open track, and I'm working one-on-one with somebody, and, you know, it's that 2 sessions in of just that working one-on-one, and all of a sudden, boom, it clicks, and when they come off the track and they come out, like, they immediately, they park their bike and they're running over to you, and they're like, oh, man, I nailed it that time. And I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, you did. And that just, like, it fills my heart, and, like, yeah, it's so rewarding when that happens, because I know what it was like when I had that and that feeling. And it's like, I mean, I've said it, I don't know how many times on every interview I've done so far, but, like, I feel so much more joy and happiness and, like, fulfillment out of having somebody else do that now than me putting in, like, a PB lap that I've never done before. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm excited when I do a PB lap, but
Oh yeah.
But, like, it's just more because, like, I get to see somebody else's, like, joy, and it's just like, man, it's just the best freaking feeling. And that's why I love doing that stuff, because, like, just seeing the expression and, like, that breakthrough, it continues them to want to be on the path to keep riding at the track and improving. Because, like, those, like, critical moments of, like, achieving that thing is like, okay, because some people plateau and some people will be like, I don't know if this is for me. But when you make those breakthroughs, it's like the interest just completely sparks over again. And it's like a whole renewal of, you know, that experience.
Right. And the more of those we can provide for our students, coaching, that they're going to go to the street riders at your local bike night and say, hey, man, you know, that you need to come and try this.
Absolutely.
And then it's like any other drug. Once you do, you're kind of addicted to it.
It's the worst drug ever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's the best, but, man, it hurts the pocket once you start getting. The faster you get, the more expensive things get. But
Yeah.
you know, I've had so many hobbies, and I used to do so many things at one time, and eventually I was like, man, I just gotta go down to the one thing I truly enjoy, and that was this, and everything else was like done. And
Yeah, but on the other end of that coin, though, or side of that coin, is to do a track day with us. You can go out and buy a race prep SV 650 for $2,000. That's tight, and make sure that you have good brakes and good tires on that thing, and go out and have a ball.
Absolutely, yeah. But when you start doing it so much and start getting to a point, then you go, I really like that Aprilia, and, you know, it'd be cool to, you know, let's put this and this and this on it. You're, like, trying to improve it all. Anybody who's into cars or bikes knows it's like the modification thing doesn't stop. You know what I mean? It just keeps adding up. You're like, it could be an improvement if I buy this and whatever. So it's like, yeah, you can go out and have fun on something very cheap and have a blast. I've done it on, you know, old 300s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then you get to a point where you're like, I can afford this a little bit, and then next thing you know, it snowballs into something bad.
Yeah.
You know.
Or I want to go a little faster. That was the reason I got rid of my R7, and not so much at Nelson, because I could catch pretty much anyone that got away from me in the novice class. But coaching at Mid-Ohio,
yeah, that's
and the
struggle.
back straightaway, I had to ride it like a maniac from the end of the back straightaway to the carousel to catch people sometimes. And so, and I thought about the same thing. I'm like, yeah, maybe another Aprilia V4. And then I thought, I did 26 track days last year on that R7.
Yeah.
On 4 rears and 2 fronts.
Ugh.
And I got a puncture, I think, and you gave me an old rear to get through. And now that I have the Triumph, I hope that I know that it's not going to be as good as the R7 was, but and granted, all those laps weren't in an advanced class, and out there cutting times, they were with your elbow on the tank and having the conga line following you, but still to be able to do that many track days and have that little of a tire budget.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. That's like when I had the ultra lightweights, the Duke 390 when I was endurance, and that I did like 3 sprint races and like 3 endurance 2-hour endurance races on one set of tires. That was amazing. And now it's a set of tires a weekend on the V4, and like, it gets, I mean, but that's I did that to myself. So,
Yeah.
So the last however many years you've been coaching with fast tracks and stuff. Well, I'll ask this question first is like, you've helped with many organizations. You've ridden with other organizations, probably, I would say probably more than anyone, I would assume. You've coached with different organizations. What, and we don't have to, we're not naming any organizations or anything like that, but like, what is it about fast tracks to you that stands out over other organizations or other track groups you either coached with or ridden with as a customer or whatever it may be?
Well, the thing that resonates with me, and the reason that I always migrate back to Nelson Ledges is because it's always felt like a club to me, and everyone is friendly. If you need any help, everyone pitches in. It's just the vibe, man. I don't know how to explain it. When I've worked with other organizations, a lot of people will go there just because of the prestige of the track. And over the years, and Malakar mentioned this also, I can remember racing at Nelson when there were potholes with cones in the middle of them, and we would race around the cones,
Jesus.
around the pothole. And the Ross family has done such a nice job putting the track back to where it is and all the curbing like we have now, and just the amount of time and effort to pay back, keep the prestige of the place, and back to when Paul Newman owned it, to where it is now, where they can keep the vintage aspect of it, but the homey aspect. You can go out there in the field at one of our places and one of our track days and park out where Chris Johnson's been parking and build a fire and have some beer at night with a bunch of friends around. At a lot of the tracks, they kick you out of there. Putnam, you had to be off the ground at
that was
6 o'clock.
Yeah, that was the worst part about Putnam, because like, if there's one thing that I absolutely, it's like a must for me now, have doing it so long, is like the hang after the day, like
Right.
with your buddies, with like, I don't know how many customers that we've had, clients that come in and ride, and then next thing you know, a year later or whatever, you become pretty good friends with them, and throughout that year, it's anybody can walk up to anybody and talk, and they come over and we talk about the day, or their riding experience, or just whatever in general, and joke around and have fun, and it's just a family atmosphere of like,
Right.
everybody's accepted, and like, that's my favorite thing. Like, I don't know how many times I've ate with people, some people I didn't even know, that were like, hey, come over, and we made a whole bunch of whatever it is, and
Yeah.
it's just, it's the best. Like, that's something that it's like a must have for me, is like to be able to stay at the track.
Right. And I get that feedback too. I've brought several people with me up there from that I met at Mid Ohio, recently, and it's really nice the way that they do their scheduling, because at Mid Ohio we do Monday and Tuesdays, and ours are on Saturday and Sunday, so they don't step on each other, and people get pumped up at Mid Ohio, and they're like, oh man, we don't have another track day down here for another 6 weeks, and I'm like, well, we have 2 weekends at Nelson.
Yeah.
Where's that? Is what I hear mostly, and a lot of people, even from the Cincinnati, Columbus area, don't even know it's there.
Right.
And then they come up and they love it, and it's a whole different animal. And there's places, for both of those schools, but Mid Ohio is a prestigious place, and you can go down there and rub elbows with the current Moto America riders on any given day, and especially now that they run factory Honda out of there, people come there just for that, just to be around those pro guys. But we offer a nice, friendly atmosphere. Not that Mid Ohio isn't like that, because they certainly are, and they can get the same coaching there, but I find that just people in general get overwhelmed when they come to the track, and we provide like a family atmosphere where people that might be a little introverted don't have a problem coming up and talking to you or talking to me, and help them out, and we've been able to point people in the right directions and coach at every level, and it's just a good thing, man. It's good to see it going.
Yeah, I agree. What is there a particular? Well, let's say we'll just go with fast tracks recently, the current fast tracks, since you've been coaching there, or it could be another, with another org or whatever. But is there a particular moment or instant that stuck out in your head, a coaching experience that, like, yeah, you're never going to forget that? Something that happened that's just always sticks with you, of like a highlight of you coaching?
Um, the first thing that came to mind thinking about that was a low light, and you've experienced it, and I've heard you mention it in these interviews where you started to get away from one of your students and they had an off track experience. I experienced one of those a couple of seasons ago that was not a pleasant one, and it wasn't any fault of mine to do that. But just thinking about it as a coach, if when you crash, you go backwards, and when somebody is out there trying to learn how to do it, it's important to bring them up on their own individual pace. The highlight, the thing that pops to mind first of all for me would probably be Chris Johnson, because he started to get into racing and was real gung-ho about it, and he had several crashes. And every time you take 2 steps forward, you take 4 back when you fall down. And just learning he and I talked a lot about the mental part of racing. And there are days that you show up at the track, man, and it's not there. You don't have it on that particular day, and that as a rider, and to push it on those days, you're going to go backwards by doing that. And so we talked about riding around and just learning as much as you can, and then to watch what he's done this year. That probably stands out in my mind, but we have those moments every single session with novice riders or with intermediate riders where they just can't get turn 4, and you go out and show them how to run off of those 2 patches to enter the turn, and to hold their line a little longer, and how to go straight for the grass and not in the middle of the track back into the carousel when they're going in there, and they get it. So it's just exciting to see other people enjoy what I've experienced and enjoy over the years. I just like people, man. I just like being around. Nelson Ledge is number 1 and fast tracks.
Yeah, you're mentioning Chris. Actually, we talked about this. I think I talked about with him in the interview, maybe, but we just talked about it a couple weeks ago about that particular, his crash in turn 4. And actually, I didn't even know he crashed, but after he crashed, and I remember the next time he was out, we were riding and I was behind him, and we would always kind of tag together, me, him, and Chris Bogert and some other people, Crudy and whatnot. And, he was always pretty fast. And I remember I was dropping him really, really hard in turn 4, or running up hard on him in 4 like I never did before. And we got off track, and he was like, yeah, I remember you coming up to me and saying, what happened? Like, why are you so slow there? I didn't know he crashed, and he told me he crashed. I go, oh, shit, well, let's work on it, right? So I gave him a safer line that made him feel more confident through there to just kind of build his confidence up. And that kind of changed his direction there to, like, slowly start to build his speed and get back up to normal in turn 4. And that one always made me feel really good, like, because again, like you said, I've crashed, but nothing like major. You know, it was always like some low sides. I dislocated my shoulder before, but like, popped back in. It was just sore. So, but I have never had major crash. So I can only imagine what it's like to have a major crash and try to come back from that. And it would take me forever. And I know there's a support system there that would help, but I still don't know exactly what that's like. And we actually have one of the guys that rides with us, who on the Gixxer 1000. I won't say his name or anything, but after his big crash, He struggled this year, and man, I feel really bad for him because like I know if I was in his position, I wouldn't be going as fast as he was going this year, from what he used to go, and he's just real down on himself. So I had a conversation with him like one of the last days, like, dude, just put your lap timer away and just go have fun. Like, because like when you lose having the fun, you're done. I mean, you can never get back. But is that your cat?
Yeah, this is Mr. Thumbs. He's a polydactyl. He's one of the Hemingway cats that has a thumb.
Oh, wow.
And so I have 3 cats there. If I go to the track, I can clean the cat box and put some extra food out, and I can be gone 3 days.
That must be why my dog hated you, because he's probably smelled your cat.
Well, it's nice that you can bring your dog with you to the track. I got along pretty good with your dog, and his bark is bigger than his bite.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
he's my buddy. He loves getting away, because I have 3 mastiffs, and the other 2, they hate car rides and stuff, and he's the oldest, and he always the other 2 always bug him and stuff. So when I leave, he like, even when I'm just getting ready and packing stuff, he starts crying. He's just ready to go, and like, I think he just wants to get away from the other 2. But now Chris's wife and Ian's wife, and they all come and visit him and stuff, and he's spoiled to death now when he's there. But
going back to what we were talking about before Mr. Thumbs barged in on us, I heard something that Josh Herron said on his podcast a couple of years ago that's kind of stuck with me, and I've shared it with students. Every time that I get a group together at Mid-Ohio, I share this story when I'm doing their novice lead. Of course, everyone knows how good of a racer he is and what level he rides at, but he took up the game of golf 3 years ago. And he said he went to the track after going to a golf course and had an epiphany where the light bulb just kind of went off over his head, and he started to look at road racing the way that he looks at the game of golf. And he said that that when you go out to the golf course, you look at all the different undulations on the fairway and on the green, and which way the course is leaning, and you actually play the game of golf where it's you against the course and not you against your competition. And he started to look at road racing that way, where he would go out and spend more focus on not trying to chase someone down in a practice session to see what they were doing, but concentrate more on what he was doing on the certain parts of the track to make him a better rider, just the little minutia for him, but for a novice to look at it like that, that seems to resonate with me, and other people have mentioned that that's helped too, because to go to a track like ours where we have 13 turns and you go out and try and learn them all at one time, it's overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
So you have to break it down into sectors, and so that's one of the things that I've been trying to figure out a way to get people to look at, where they pick a particular part of a race course and get it down, or just work on like at our track, turns 1, 2, 3, and then think about what you're doing in those 3 turns, and then ride around the rest of it for a session and really work on getting that part of the track down. And when you feel like I got this, then ride that one, because it's going to be second nature to you, and then break it up where you're working on turn 4 and the entrance to the carousel and the exit of the carousel, and have that be a separate part of it. And then how to go through the kink fast and get into 12 and 13 and let that be the third sector. And then when you're having problems in one particular area, you already have the other ones down. So don't, once you blow like turn 4, don't waste 2/3 of your next lap thinking about what you did behind you. You know what I mean? Wait till you get there again, and then really work on what you're doing in that particular turn when you make that mistake. And that's applicable no matter where you ride.
Yeah, and I think that's breaking it down like that is for sure. That's a great way to look at it. And the other thing of like, I think it's really important, especially being new, to not measure yourself for somebody else, because even somebody else in novice, everybody learns at such different levels. You know that as a teacher and stuff in different ways. You know, for me, and I say this so much during the novice classes, in my group, I'm like, look, I had a buddy that, you know, he didn't ride a long time. I did track days, kind of got out of it a little bit, and then me and a few guys, we would just trailer out to out 71 and like 70 or not 71, 70 and go park out kind of like where 70 and 77 is, and we would ride south into Marietta and stuff, and I'd always lead because I knew the route and stuff, and we were doing that a couple times. I invited my buddy out to do it, and I said, man, you should go do a track day, you know, because you're pretty quick and you seem to like the going around corners and stuff. And he's like, yeah, and he said, you want to go do one? I'm like, yeah, it's been a while, but I'll go back out with you. And you know, I kind of got out of it, and I was still kind of in the upper ends of intermediate or whatever. And it'd been a while, and we went, and man, he picked it up like that. He has that part of the brain that doesn't exist to say, you know, survival, you know, and he was slower than me at first, and we kept going, and then he matched up with me, and next thing you know, he passed me. And, you know, he learned so fast where it took me, like, I was a novice for a year starting out, you know, I almost gave it up the first track day because it was the coaching and stuff with the organization. It was terrible structure, and I was kind of lost and just like, I don't know if it's for me, but I ended up doing another one, which was better, and it gave me a little bit more confidence and some structure and stuff, and you know, stuck with a little bit more. But again, it's like I was nervous to go up. You know, I didn't know where my skill set was. I was still trying to learn. I was unsure of myself, unsure of my skill set. He was just confident, and he managed to learn quick. He adapts quick, and I was like, damn, man. I started getting down on myself a little bit, but like,
Yeah.
you know, what ended up happening to him, yeah, he crashed. He's like, oh, we should start racing, and we did. And the first weekend we had as provisional novice racers, he crashed at Nelson and totaled the bike. And ever since then, it was, you know, he never kind of got back to where he was. We were talking about the crashing thing, but, you know, me, I didn't have big crashes. I was baby steps the whole way. And that's how, you know, when I would get past a little mental block or whatever it is and get comfortable with a certain thing, then it becomes natural. Like, oh, when you brake real hard and the back starts coming up a little bit and the bike gets wiggly. The first time you do that, you shit your pants.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, holy crap. But when you do it several times and you haven't crashed and you learn to be relaxed, it's natural and it's not a big thing. Just like watching, you know, the guys at Moto America when they're backing the bikes in. I would love to be able to do that. If I tried to do that purposely, I'd probably end up in the grass somewhere. But they've done it so much, and they know the feeling, and it's not a risky situation to them. It's controlled. They already know how it feels, and it's all, for me, it was all about getting to that comfort level of feeling that weirdness, and then it's okay, and it's a natural thing. Like, it's just going to happen. But you know, I can't just jump from there to that point. It's always been baby steps. So, you know, for me, and other people learn a different way, like my buddy, where it's just like, yeah, we'll go out if it happens, whatever, and keep going. So that's what I try to always tell the people in novice, like, don't measure yourself against other people. Don't get discouraged, because everyone is completely different. We all learn at different levels. We all, you know, have our the word I'm looking for is escaping me, but like the what we're willing to risk. Our risk factors are completely different. So there's a big input into it as well. So it's all those things make people, progress differently. And just because you're a little bit slower progressing than this person, it doesn't mean you're crap or whatever it is. You're just different. Everybody's personality and everything's different. So, you have to, that has to be part of it and understand that. Otherwise, boom, you're going to hate being at the track.
Yeah. And in the novice class, you normally end up taking the faster groups.
I try to, yeah.
and we've I've come into the garage before and had guys that were up in that first or second group say, hey, man, I don't know. I think I might need to move down. Those guys are flying. And so I go and talk to you or someone else, and you tell me that, well, yeah, the guy that's here for the first time on the road race track is a pro motocrosser.
Yeah.
And so of course, he's got so much seat time that the bike movement around on a road race track is nothing for him. And so everyone has to go out there and ride at their own level and keep it safe. And it's a track day, man.
Yeah.
You're out there competing against that golf course, I think, not against competition.
Yeah. And I think that's one of probably the hardest things that I see in novice for us coaches is like, even though we break down into like, faster to slower groups in novice, and it could be 7 groups. So we have the faster pace guys, group 1, and the slower pace people. Maybe somebody's never ridden the track or whatever it is, and in group 7. But even within those groups of 3 people, there's 3 different types of bikes. It could be a Ninja 400, a leader bike, and a 600. And then on top of that, their skill set and how they learn and their progression and their risk assessment, it's all different. And we have to try to like make everybody happy in that. And it's really hard. And yeah, the major thing, as most people say, is just like, I tell people this, like, hey, if we're going a little too slow, to you, because you're on a leader bike and you want to really open it up, I'm sorry. But focus on the other areas of track where it's not a straight, right? And it's all about safety. I can't go faster for you and put 2 other people at risk. So it's, all those things. Our number one priority is make sure you have a good, safe day. And then, after safety is like getting you to learn and making sure you're getting all these things and getting all the knowledge we can give you and stuff. But safety's number one. But it does make it really hard for us to like discern all these different things, Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But we have a good thing going, and I hope that we get to keep it going. Eating my words a little bit, I would love to see us do an endurance racing series in the near future. That would be kind of fun.
Well, I'm sure you probably know Schwannick and Chris Bogert had made pretty fair large attempts at trying to get it to come back. And, it comes down to insurance and all this stuff, right? A lot of money. And even with trying to get some sponsor on board. But, yeah, I would love it. Like, some of my favorite racing ever was with Lean when Sam did the endurance stuff. And I always did the ultra lightweight because it was cheap. But 2 hours with guys that aren't some people that run in Moto America and come in and do club racing.
Yeah.
You're talking about these are usually just track day guys, sometimes older, whatever. And everybody's pretty close on pace. And it was just the most fun I've ever had racing. And do you know Tim Dauberton?
No, not by name.
Okay. He's like a director over at N2, whatever, but I've been friends with him for a while, and I go, man, you got to come out and do the ultralight endurance with me on my Duke 390. And he's like, I don't know. He's had R6 and whatever. And I said, no, just come out. You're going to have fun, whatever. And after he got done riding on that endurance with me, he goes, that was the best time. Because when, the first go before you get gas, it's elbow to elbow the whole time. And then after
Yeah.
that first gas break, it breaks up a little bit, but then it comes back. And he got to do some elbow to elbow. He actually did the last stint, and he had a real good battle with two other guys. And he was like, that was the closest racing I ever had. And it
Right.
was just, man, all racing I've done, everybody has been so awesome as far as like if you're struggling. I mean, I've given tips to a competitor I had. Hey, this last race, even though I know I got another race against him in 45 minutes, I can tell you exactly why you weren't going well here. Here's how to fix
Yeah.
it. And then they beat me that next time out. But I've gotten the same type of help. And it doesn't matter if it's your competitor. Everybody is still willing to help and share tips and advice and tools and like anything you need. And,
Hmm.
it was even more close with that endurance stuff because these guys weren't like, there's no points chasing. It was just like, it was just go to have fun. And
Yeah.
that's why it was some of the best.
And we had that camaraderie afterwards too, where
Oh,
you'd sit around and bench race and
oh yeah.
have dinner and afterwards. And like you say, that's the best part of being part of an organization that's family like we are at Fast Tracks.
Yeah, for sure. It's I've I've made some really really good long lasting friends and yeah, it's been fantastic.
Mhm.
Um so we kind of touched a little bit on it with some of the stuff, but like what do you think is like one of the main hurdles for someone, and it could be both from novice to intermediate or intermediate to advance. What is like the biggest hurdle for people to bridge that gap to make that leap?
Um, Consistency, and that's a reoccurring theme with whatever coach or level you talk to. Consistency is important because it's the rider behind the rider that you're trying to get around's responsibility to do that. And when someone isn't consistent, it creates a dangerous situation. So even if someone is not riding the ideal line, if they continue riding the line that they're comfortable with, certainly we want to get them and polish that up. But for them to move up to an intermediate or advanced, um, and once we do move them up and they get around guys that are going faster and doing things right, it seems like it helps to move up. And one of the hardest things to do for me is to ride in that novice class and then go out the next day and try and go out and cut laps in advanced or intermediate. Um, just the as fast as things happen, and you get used to um, not looking as far ahead in those novice classes, and when you're out there actually trying to get back up to speed again and get into what you're doing, that's a difficult thing. But to be able to go out and go from novice and work up in the intermediate, I think the biggest thing is consistency.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. What would you say is the most um, common part of the track that people struggle with at all levels? And it could be novice learning it, or even like sometimes I've mentioned this before, we've had Moto America guys, not like top 5 people by any means, but like we've had Moto America people that may run Super Stock 1000 or something like that, and they come to the track, and the track isn't a super technical track, but you have to have balls. And you have to know the line because there are idiosyncrasies of the track that you need to know in order to go fast. But it is a big balls track, essentially, being, I think it's like the second or third like fastest average speed in the country. I think Daytona is number 1. I think Willow Springs is 2, and then Nelson is 3rd, I
Yeah.
think. But what part of the track do you think that people on average struggle with the most?
I think turn 4 gives people the most problems, and it doesn't make sense to me because the left-handers for most people seem to be the easiest ones. But Nelson, I think for the people coming in that I hear over and over and over again, it's turn four. And one of the things that and I know from being out there and walking the track and spending so much time out there, is when you come out of the exit of turn three, where they've made the little
Runoff.
asphalt place over there,
Yep.
for the cars to run out a little bit. There's a little crest in the track right there. And when you're coming out of three and you're actually looking into turn four, you can't see the entry like you think that you can, because the bike's still leaned over. And by the time you pick it up and start to transition over to where you enter turn four, you go over the top of that rise. And for us, we have so much seat time, it's second nature.
Yep.
But for a newer rider, they don't see it. The entrance to four comes up on them so quick. And as far as four is concerned, if you've ever gone out there in your car, or take your car out there sometimes at the end of the day and drive the hood of it down onto the apex of four and back up to the top of it.
It's
like
so
a
banked.
freaking roller coaster, man.
Yeah, I like when I rode with Morgan Wade, or
Yeah.
Morrison, sorry.
Morrison.
Yeah. In his 911, and like I don't know if I walked the track or not before. I'm sure I have, but I must have forgot. But we went out there, and I remember going through four, being in the car, and like not having to pay attention to things. I wasn't driving, I wasn't riding, I wasn't focusing on things, but just just visually being able to look and see different things. And I was like, holy shit, four is so banked. I mean, it's incredibly banked. And from a motorcycle view, it seems flat. But man, it is, you get down in the bottom of it, you're stuck. You ain't going anywhere. I mean, It's crazy. But once you get clear to the top, it does flatten out. And I think a lot of people end up in that predicament. But I agree. Like, I've asked so many people that question, and like, oddly enough, I thought everybody would say four. And it's been 13, and like for novice, I think sometimes because they come out and they goose it too hard, and they either run wide or the back just slides out on, they get on the gas too soon or whatever. But like carousel, I would say, it's slow. You could go slow through it, but like you could have the line. I wouldn't say it's much of a struggle. It's just a progression of getting that speed up. But four, like you were saying, is like the entry is all of it. And if you mess the entry up, it's done. And it's very, very hard to, like, once you do it once and understand how it goes, then the confidence is there because you're like, oh yeah, I just fell in and gripped and went. But it's like, some people most people, like, I would agree with you on it that like it's kind of not knowing where, even though we can kind of show them those patches and stuff, but it's also kind of like a risks thing, because when you're driving out of three, you're flying.
Oh yeah.
And it's, that's probably the shortest stint coming out of a corner besides like 12 to 13, but I wouldn't really even consider that same way because, you're not going fast there really as fast as you are coming out of three. But to get on the brakes, either people slow down way too much or they go too far. And but there's several ways to get through that corner too. It just depends on how you want to do it. But I would 1,000% agree. Like even people that are very experienced riders, I see like that I wouldn't expect to catch people that are, maybe an AMA guy or a really good club racer or whatever. I'll catch them there. And it's because I just have so many miles and laps around the track and I'm used to it and I know it. But I would definitely agree on that.
And if you look at 99% of the crashes that happen there on the entry, you never see anyone run off the top of that on a bike.
No, not. I mean, unless it's like during the endurance, there was a mechanical, or something like that.
Oh, geez.
But it's usually, like you're saying, it's entry. It's either they overcook it, next thing you know, they just go straight out, or they're trying to turn in too late, and they just low side and they're out. But I would 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah, those patches that are in there now are really good. They're like a Z shape, and if you start anywhere on that first one and transition to the second one,
you just ride right across. It's such a good visual line.
Yep. and just like if you're passing people there too, you can go in really. I saw Kayla Yakov pass 4 people in that turn on one coming out of 3. She stayed on the grass all the way to the left. I'm thinking she's not going to make this, and she's so good on the brakes that it was in a weird expert race, and she went under 4 leaders and took the lead right
Into
there.
4.
Into 4.
Yeah, she's an alien, so that doesn't count.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's true. That's a true statement.
okay, I remember racing her. You know, she wasn't AMA or anything then. She was probably 12 years old. However, I mean, this is what, she's 16 now, or is she 16 or is she older?
I think she's 17 now.
Okay, so maybe she was 14 at the time or
Yeah.
13. This redhead girl with pigtails with a pink suit on a freaking scooter during the riders meeting, and I'm like, oh, she's cute. That's great. Little girl. I can't wait to see what she did. And then she's in my class and just bust my ass. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, man. Like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. And now watching her just be a badass is just, it's amazing. It's
Well, her
fantastic.
dad was one of those guys that we were talking about earlier with Keith Reed and Quentin, and those guys would go chase the Yamaha money, and her dad was a savage.
Yeah.
A really good rider.
She's amazing on the brakes. God, she's such a good breaker.
One of the best I've ever seen at any level.
I remember watching her first year in Junior Cup, rode Atlanta into 10A, 10B, and I'm like, holy shit. That was just like, that was an eye-opener. I'm like, good Lord, she can brake.
And they had the stationary yellow out there, and she passed those guys on the last lap and would have won that race.
Yep.
And,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and they switched over to FIM rules, so a stationary yellow is the same as a waving in most other organizations, and no fault of hers, but that was a seriously sick pass.
Yeah, that was an enjoyable race to watch.
Yeah, but I would think the second turn out there, 13 is the one that still gives me problems, and I think that that a lot of other people too, but I'm from the day when that used to be a skating rink and you just got through 13, and now there's grip. You know,
yeah. I forget who was telling me. I think maybe it was Matt Comrie. We were talking about it, and I guess I didn't pay enough attention about it. But after he said that, I'm like, oh yeah, you're totally right. 13, it does kind of, after you get through the corner, the track does kind of come back in. And so, like, you can't necessarily push it as wide as you would normally think because you'll just go off track. Yeah. And it's not a lot, but it's enough that it comes back a little bit that, like, if you think it's a normal, 90-degree corner or whatever, and you try to run it that way, you'll just go out and run off the track.
Yeah, the asphalt at the exit there cuts back in.
Yep.
And they put a cone there now, but all of us have taken the grass there where we thought there was track and there isn't. And there again, there's a little rise there where you wheelie over the top of that hill.
Yep.
But that's right where you run out of track, and it's oh shit.
Yeah, I've been there a couple times. What would you say to anybody that hasn't been to the track ever, considering doing a track day, considering coming and riding up with Fast Tracks? They're on the fence. What are you telling them?
Well, I mean, I would tell them that they're going to have a good time, and number one, and I would just tell them to come out and experience it. If they don't want to ride, the first time, or they're on the fence about it, just come up, and if they come up on a street bike or on their car or in their car and start walking through the pits and run into one of us, someone's going to engage them with conversation. And I think the big thing is just getting them there, because as a coaching staff as a whole, we have a way of making people feel comfortable there. We don't realize it as coaches, but there's such a mix of people, man, that anyone could feel comfortable with us, and come up and give it a try, and I liked the kid that bought my R7, his dad played basketball for me in high school, and just happened to pop by my house, and I had the bike for sale. And an hour later, his wife was bringing a pile of cash over, and but he came up to the track, and he's like, "Holy shit, man! This isn't what I thought it would be. This is great." And he's the one that now wants to buy the Aprilia and get involved with his son. And I've heard that story reoccurring with several of the people that you've interviewed, where, or Ian, that he started in, and now his dad bought a bike.
Yeah, that's
And
that's wild.
yeah, yeah, but I mean that is the kind of atmosphere that we have, um, just by happenstance, or the group of people that we have, and the way that we run fast tracks makes people feel comfortable to come up there and try it, where they feel safe, and they know that they're going to get good instruction, and we do a really good job of policing. As far as that may be a harsh word, but as far as just keeping an eye on people and making sure that they stay safe, they stay safe themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other term you could use, but besides policing or um, you know, control riding or
Yeah,
whatever you want to call it, But yeah,
yeah,
we do. I mean, that's the one thing Malachar stresses the most is, being safe out there. Um,
yeah.
uh,
And
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, and selfishly, um, if you talk to people and someone goes out and wads their bike up, the rest of the people are sitting there waiting for them to roll the crash truck. And I'm not going to mention the organization, but it was one of the swan songs over at Pitt that I had a chance to go ride before the track closed down. And the intermediate group on Saturday had a total of 17 laps for the day.
Jeez.
Yeah, it is because they were rolling the crash truck so much. And that's where you have a riders meeting after the second session
Yeah.
again and start over. But we don't let it get there in our organization, and people pick up on that and they feel comfortable.
Yeah, and if we do have crashes, one thing I notice it's if when somebody comes back to the pit, usually most of the time it's not a major issue, but they're always in medical to come, and the ambulance come back or whatever, and the crash truck comes back. There's usually 4 coaches and Malachar standing there. Everything all good? What happened? Anything we can help you with? I mean, people
Right.
that have hurt themselves and had to go to the hospital, we're loading their stuff up for them. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's just the kind of people we are. Like, any way we can try to help, we are. Like, we may not know you from Adam, but like, hey, let's close his canopy up and do whatever we can to gather his things up to make it easier on him. It's an unfortunate thing that happened, but if we can help out in any way to better the situation, we will. So I always thought
But
that was great.
but in our organization, that's the exception and not the rule, and that makes us different. We have a knack of seeing those things as coaches and getting together, and because you can see it coming,
Right.
with certain riders, and
Oh yeah.
I think that we get together and stop that before it gets to a bad situation, and that's another thing that's really good about our organization.
Yeah.
You know,
Be able to catch those things and be
yeah.
mindful, stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Um, we've been going for about an hour and 20 some minutes here.
Oh boy.
I don't really have any more questions to ask. Is there anything that you'd like to speak on before we call it? I mean, I'll leave it open to you if you got anything you'd really like to touch on in particular.
And I've just enjoyed the conversation with you because, like I mentioned off camera earlier, that we've had conversations in passing in the pit lane, but when we're there to coach, we have an hour for lunch, and then after that, we're with our students most of the time. But just being able to talk to you about your background and getting to know a little bit more about you is a good thing. And shit, I thought we were going for about a half hour,
It
40
goes
minutes, man.
quick, man. Like, that's
Time. Time
I
flies when
mean,
you're having
honestly,
fun.
like everybody that I've done interviews with, and they're like, "Ah, man, I don't even know if I could fill a half hour." And I'm like, "Trust me, you start talking, and it's like it's not like we're recording. It's just we're having a conversation, and I'm asking questions, filling me in, and then I'll have to have a follow up question to stuff because I'm just interested to hear your particular view or whatever it is on it, and I have like 3 or 4 questions I've written down that I want to make sure I cover. And everything else is just off the top of my head, following up from the stuff that you say. And like, yeah, I mean, it's just getting more and more interesting because like you said, like we do talk, like I talk with Malachar all the time there. I talk with you there and everything else. And yeah, I mean, there's a couple people I keep in contact with quite a bit. Like, I'll talk to them at least once a week now. But yeah, I don't get to have that same thing with everyone. And I've learned so much, even from the people that I do talk to once a week.
Yeah.
But just this particular format and the way we're doing it, like other people are getting to learn the stuff, but I'm getting to learn quite a bit of things as well. And it's very interesting. So, we know each other, pretty decent stuff, but there's just things when things just don't come up in conversation because we're talking about what's happening right then and there and whatever it is. And yeah, to hear the background and stuff, it's super interesting. I like for sure I didn't know that you were an AMA card carrier, which is crazy. That's awesome. But yeah, it's I've been having a lot of fun with it, and yeah, I hope to do more. I got at least 1 or 2 more lined up, and then I got to get a hold of some of the other people. Some of the people I don't have contacts for, but yeah, it's been interesting, and hopefully so far everybody else is enjoying it. I know at least the feedback I get from the coaches for sure. They're like, "Oh, that's awesome." They had a good time listening to it, and which makes me feel good. And one of the things I was who did I say this to? I can't remember. I was talking to the other day. I said, I can't wait until next year when you're at the track and somebody that you don't know comes up to you and goes, "I watched your video," and I want to hear from everybody that I've done interviews with if they have that interaction, because to me, then I go, okay, I've moved the needle somewhat. Someone's watched it, and then it's opened them up to come up and talk to somebody and strike conversation. And that's all I wanted out of this was like, I want something that would be able to set us a little bit apart from every other organization, and then having these conversations that people can listen to, let them in on your life, see what you're like, what your background is on stuff, and have that relatability, and just make it even, not that we aren't approachable, but it just makes it more approachable. Because like nowadays when people watch so much content, they like feel like they know the person because they've listened to so much of them. And I hope that's the way this goes. And maybe it puts somebody that was on the fence of not coming out to now go, man, maybe I'll just come out and just hang out, like you were saying. Or maybe it drives them to just come out and do that first track day. And once they get out there, then they'll really see. But at least this kind of gives them a window into the experience before coming. You know what I mean? And or for the people that have done many track days with us before and had the little chit-chat through the days or the coaching stuff, they don't know any of this other stuff, and may be interesting to them. So as long as somebody gets some entertainment value, or there's some kind of value, I'll keep doing it, and I'm having fun with it too. So
sounds good.
But yeah, man, if there's nothing else you want to touch on, then we'll wrap it up here. And it'll be, I got I think 4 weeks till this one's up, but I'm sure this one will be a good one. Everybody, you've got tons of stories, a lot of background like Malachar, so this one will be one of those ones people be waiting on for sure.
Yeah, I tell you, the older I get, the faster I was.
Yeah, I'm at that. I'm on the downslope now. I was talking to Comrie about it. I go, and Steve Deshay, and I'm like, yeah, I'm comfortable at my level of speed to now just be like, as long as I'm having fun, and whatever, It's
that's
good.
what keeps you coming back, man. Has having fun. When it starts not being fun,
it's a shit show, and you want to quit.
Hobby.
So I had to. That was one of the mindset things I had to do. Go. You have to realize. You know this very well. There's always somebody faster. Oh. There's a club racer that's faster. There's a a America guy that's faster than him. There's a World Superbike guy that's faster than him. And there's MotoGP, the highest level. There is always somebody faster. Marc Marquez is probably the only one who doesn't have to worry about that.
Right.
So, yeah, we all know there's someone faster, and you just when you understand that, come to that realization, the better off you'll be, You'll have fun.
It's you against the track.
Yep. Well, hey, I really, really appreciate you doing this with me, taking the time out to do it. I mean, you're retired. You got all the time in the world.
Yeah, there you go.
But, yeah, it's been really fun. I learned a lot. And, again, it's I thank you for taking the time out, sit down, and have the conversation. And we need to have more. I need to learn more. You got so many stories. I want to hear them now.
Oh, and you can share yours with me, too, but off camera.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, we will go ahead and wrap up there. Thanks, everybody who watched this. And, this will be uploaded here at some point soon. So we'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.